Hello and welcome to I Am Not Your Tour Guide, but I am your host, Starla Skelton. This is a podcast where travelers become storytellers. So today in my podcast world, I am interviewing a dear friend who thankfully loves to talk as much as I do. This guy loves the outdoors. He loves a good adventure. He loves a solid challenge. And he never strays away from having a good conversation. So I'm really excited about today. Thank you for coming on with me, Mr. Jason Willis.
Hello, Starla.
You sound so professional.
Actually, I wanted to give a pause there so you could have something to edit right away. Like, I want you editing from the very start of the podcast. I want you going, you know what? We're going to edit this like the first 10 seconds. We're going to have to edit this. It's going to be a long edit process.
Thanks, Jason.
This might get up sometime in July.
Right. I was about to say, this will be a great New Year's Eve episode.
Yeah, we'll see you next year.
How are you? Are you good?
I'm fantastic. Life is good. Life is good.
Yeah?
You?
That's good. That's good. I know you have a cat. Is your cat in your vicinity? Or
No. If I did have the cat in the vicinity, it would take over the podcast. It would push me out of the way, and it would put the headphones in and say, listen to what I have to say.
That's
because
awesome.
the cat actually talks more than me, which is the reason why I get along with the cat so well.
Right. And so That's probably one of the reasons you and I have kind of gotten along since the beginning of our friendship. We definitely both like to talk. We like to have a good debate. We like to talk about our belief in why we think each other's right, and it's fun. It's great. And so I definitely want to get into that with you a little bit later, like a little bit of some debating of travel subjects. But I want to start us off with one of our favorite places. And I think we like to call that the great outdoors. You know, the world, al fresco, Mother Nature, outside. I feel like I would like to go into depth a little bit with you because you have taken quite a few trips that involve the outside and a lot of physical activity. And so I want to know, is there a specific spot in the country, outside of the country, anywhere you're feeling that you would recommend for our listeners, a certain spot, a certain vacation or trip?
Well, I would recommend a lot of places. So that's a tough question because there's so many cool places on the planet. You know what I mean? The first part, and really the funnest part of travel, and it's fun that you started a travel podcast because there's really nothing better than travel, because travel is such a wide umbrella of so many cool things that are underneath it, right? Where you come food and culture and language, personalities, geography, landscape. So it's just so much that combines with travel. Travel is kind of a weird word, right? It's like, it's almost a word that is non-deserving to be used because it's trying to define so many different things, which is weird, right?
That's good.
So when you talk about, something travel that I recommend, the great outdoors specifically, I thought about, keeping it domestic. I think that it's difficult for others to find that international, or maybe they get one international trip every couple of years, especially with families, whatever. So I think domestic is probably a more achievable goal for some folks. And I've done a lot of domestic travel, and I think I'm at like 41 or 42 of the 50 states. And I've taken a handful of just cross-country road trips, and because I wanted to experience what the United States has to offer, right? Like, I love international travel. I love seeing other cultures, but really we have a kind of a diverse scene right here in our own country, right in our own backyard, right? So I think that's why people like watching travel shows, even within your own country, because you see something and you're like, wow, that's a 2-hour flight away from me.
Yeah.
Like that's right around the corner, right? I mean, that's nothing. That's a day trip. So probably one of the things that I would recommend that was a game changer in my life was probably the 2-day hike through the Narrows in Zion.
Yes. And remind us where Zion is located.
So Zion is one of the 62 or 63 national parks in the country, and it's located in the southwest corner of Utah, which, in my opinion, is a top 3 state as far as beauty.
Yeah.
It's diverse. You got mountains, you have desert, the northern, the western, the eastern. They're all different from each other, right? It's a very interesting state to get to see. And Zion is tucked in the southwest corner. The easiest way to get to Zion, if you don't travel, like, cross-country trip it or drive there on your own, was probably fly into Vegas.
Okay.
And rent a vehicle and drive I think it's about 3 hours northeast of Vegas.
Okay.
So it's a fairly easy drive north of Las Vegas.
All right.
Just right into the Utah state line, and it's right there. And it's a beautiful drive from Vegas.
So rent a car, get into Vegas, rent a car, and then just take that scenic ride to even just get to Zion National Park.
Beautiful drive to get to Zion. Exactly. Now, once you get there, obviously there's a multitude of resources or options for your stay. Mm-hmm. So I can only talk about the way I've done it, but there are obviously just a wide variety of ways for you to get access to Zion, where you stay while you're there. Mm-hmm. So obviously you have little communities outside of the Zion National Park, and you can stay in Airbnbs, hotels, or you can camp inside the park. You can also camp, within the campgrounds, or you can go up to what they call the Zion Wilderness, which takes a permit, and you can camp out in the wilderness with a permit, overnight camp. I don't know if there's any BLM, which is the land management system, which is basically free campgrounds where you don't need a permit, you don't have to pay. I'm sure everybody that listens to this understands what BLM land is, but I don't know if there's any BLM land around Zion or not. To be fair, I'm not familiar. I have stayed in some BLM land outside of Moab, which is still in Utah, but it's on the opposite side of the state. But yeah, so
for these campsites, would you recommend that people book them ahead of time? Or is it something they can just kind of show up and go to the ranger station and then just book when you get there?
So campsites are a little different. You're not going to go to a ranger station. I'm sure that there are places or campgrounds that you can reserve. Mm-hmm. I don't have any experience reserving those, so I like to just kind of show up and wing it. Mm-hmm. I do not recommend my style of travel to anyone listening to this because it can get you in trouble. But so the way that I did it is I showed up to the front gate at like 5 a.m.
Okay.
It may have even been a little earlier than that. It may have been like 4:30. But I remember the sun wasn't up yet. It was still dark. Uh-huh. And surprisingly, I wasn't the first. I was trying to be the first one in line, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's kind of what I get up for. And I got there and there was already like 7 or 8 cars in front of me. And so there just starts a line at the front gate because the ranger doesn't show up till 7 or 8 a.m. I can't remember exactly what time the ranger gets there, but the ranger doesn't care how many people are there prior to them opening, right? Like they get there at 7 or 8, whatever their time is, and that's that. So so when I went, I was lucky enough to go with a buddy of mine. And he flew into, I was out there, I took my Jeep, I'm just kind of cruising all over the West, and he flew into Vegas, I picked him up, and we drove to Zion. And what we did was the night before, we actually stayed in like a rink-a-dink hotel way outside of Zion, just so we could have a place to stay, so we could get up in the middle of the night and then make the little short 20-minute drive in and get in line. Right. So that's the way we did it. Uh-huh. So when you get in line, I saved our spot in the vehicle in the Jeep, and then he got out and walked to the ranger station where they give out permits for certain things, right? Okay. And basically walk-ins. So permits, depending on what you want to do, they have online reservations, but they have lottery systems, and then they also have walk-in permits for the following day's activities, whatever requires a permit, right? So while I was in the car line to get a camping spot, he went to see if there was any permits that we could do that day. Because to be fair, we really didn't even plan what we were doing. We were just like, let's just get there. We'll hopefully, fingers crossed, get a campsite. Yeah. And then from there, we'll kind of figure out what we'll do. Right? I mean,
do you remember what month this was?
Yeah, it was, it was either late June or late July.
Okay. So touristy season, right?
Oh yeah, it was bonkers. People everywhere. So I'll talk a little bit about that. Zion is popular for a reason, right? Like it's popular because it's one of the most gorgeous places in America. I mean, it's truly, there's not very many places I've ever been that has a look and feel of what Zion kind of, it makes you feel probably the small, even in Grand Canyon, I didn't feel as small as you feel in Zion. But
so it's like Jurassic Park. You're basically in Jurassic Park.
You're in Jurassic Park. Luckily, there's no raptors and T-Rexes that you have to run from. That you know of. That's right. So basically their system, at least at the time, obviously, parks change their rules every year, but their system is 1 in, 1 out. Okay. So when the ranger gets there, what they do is they kind of go through the campgrounds and they see who's left who left before they got there, what sites are open. And then let's say that they find 5 spots that opened up overnight. Okay. Right? Before they got there. So then what they do is they hand out the first 5 cars, they get their permits, and then they tell them, hey, go, this spot's open, that spot's open. And then once those spots are full, the gate comes down, and then basically it's 1 out, 1 in. So there's a line pretty much all morning. And as soon as people pack up their camp and leave, then another one will come in. It's the nightclub of the outdoors, right? Wow. So that's why getting there as early as possible, if you're going to camp there, which I obviously recommend, you have to get there early. If you get there after 8 o'clock, I mean, I would not rely on having a place to sleep if you got there after 8.
Right.
So getting there before the sun comes up is almost mandatory if you want a camping spot.
Right.
We got lucky there, right? So obviously with travel, as you know, some preparation is crucial, but also luck is definitely a big part of travel. And luck, it will play a part in everywhere you go and everything that you do. So sometimes you just got to get a little lucky, right? Mm-hmm. And so we got lucky to get a spot that day, and we got lucky to snag the last Narrows permit. So he comes back to the Jeep and he says, we got the last permit for the Narrows tomorrow. And I mean, it was like, our trip has just had this, it was like a passport getting stamped. It was like, we're in, right?
Man, yes. So so once you got your pass that you were going to be able to, and I think it's important to point out that I think it's a great idea, these passes, because you don't want to overpopulate. You don't want to overcrowd. You don't want it to be Disney World on the Zion floor, on the Narrows floor, just even preserving it as something that's beautiful in nature. I think it's a great idea. So whenever people, I'm sure people get irritated that they couldn't get a pass and couldn't get down there if it didn't work with their timing. But I think it's smart. I like it.
Well, here's the cool thing about the Narrows specifically, right? And Zion kind of has a lot to offer. It's not just the Narrows. Right. In fact, I would say most people probably know Angel's Landing more than maybe they even do the Narrows, right? Like they've seen the picture of Angel's Landing where you kind of do the hike up. It's kind of a little sketchy hike up, and then you kind of get that money shot picture of overlooking that valley, right? Uh-huh. But the Narrows too. I mean, so they have 2 different hikes that you can do for the Narrows specifically. They have a bottom up, what they call day hike, that does not require a permit. So you can show up to Zion. You don't need a permit, and you can still experience everything that the Narrows has to offer. You're in the water. You're in a slot canyon. You get the 1,000-foot walls on either side of you, the 40-foot across. Like, you get the feeling of being in a slot canyon at the Narrows, and you can spend all day in there. So to experience the Narrows, you really don't need a permit, and you don't need to do what we did.
Okay.
But that you can only go so far because the trail basically prohibits anyone just with its terrain.
Yeah.
It blocks people getting from the bottom up. So you have to turn around at like, I don't know, maybe a mile or two. And then you can, like, again, you can hang in there, you can hang out, and there's a ton of people there. I mean, it's like a water park because everyone's playing in the water, everyone's in the canyons, everyone's hiking up as far as they can hike, which again isn't far. Like you might, like I said, you might get 2 miles in before you're like, okay, I can't go any further, right?
Yeah.
It may be a little longer than that, but it doesn't feel very long, right? But what we did to do the overnight, the 2-day hike, that's where you're on your own. You don't see anybody else really. And there are 12 designated campgrounds in the canyon. And the campgrounds are, I say I mean, they're just basically little bitty spots, but they're far away from each other. Yeah. So like when you stay at one, there's only 12 and I think it's a 16-mile hike.
So they're spread out.
So whenever you put your tent up, you can't see or hear anybody else. In fact, all you can hear is the rushing water, right?
Maybe a bug or two.
You know, I think there was bugs there. I don't remember bugs being a problem.
Okay.
But I don't know. I could be. I think there's probably seasons for that too.
So bring your bug spray though.
I would definitely bring, anytime you're going outside, definitely bring the bug spray for
100%.
sure.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing though. You know, when you're doing a 2-day hike through the Narrows, you want to try to limit as much as possible because you're rationing your pack, right? Like you're just constantly trying to get that balance of what do I absolutely need for the next 20 hours? You know what I mean? But what can I leave behind? Because the heaviest thing, obviously, you're going to bring is your water. So you can do the Narrows without a permit, the bottom up day hike, and it's fantastic. It's great. Right. You get all the pictures to post on social media that you want. You get to experience everything. You get to have the rushing water hitting your legs and swim and it's cool. Yeah. But if you want to get away from the crowd and you want to do 2 days inside of a slot canyon where you're kind of, again, on your own, or if you got a buddy or friend or family member, whatever, you got sleeping under the stars, in the side of a slot canyon. I mean, it's kind of like, it's unreal. Like, so if you do get lucky enough to get a permit, to get a pass, I do recommend that. And I'll talk a little bit about, what it's going to take to get down that hike because it's strenuous. I mean, it's not a impossible hike by any stretch, but you definitely need to be somewhat in shape because you're walking 2 days on wet, mossy rocks and boulders. Like you got to make sure you have the right shoes, the walking sticks, all the things that you're going to need to help your footing because here's the problem. If you sprain an ankle on one of those wet, mossy rocks that you're walking on for 2 days, which you're constantly sliding, like the whole time you're fighting for footing for 2 days, every step is a fight for footing. Yeah. Right? So imagine you walking. So you're like, oh, I can 16 miles. That's not a problem. Okay, well, do 16 miles, but every single step you take is a fight for footing. Because if you sprain your ankle at pretty much any point of the hike, I don't know what happens. Like they can't come get you. Like they can't carry you out really. Right. Or if they could, it's going to be very tricky. They can't come in from the top because like I said, they're 1,000-foot walls. So that's impossible. So like you don't want to injure yourself while you're in this canyon. And that's definitely in your brain while you're walking and slipping and sliding and is like, don't twist your ankle.
Did you use trekking poles?
No, because again, I don't do things the right way the first time. We did not bring any trekking poles or walking sticks or anything like that.
Anything that could keep your balance.
Right. Did not do that. So for the first day, and really, it wasn't until the second day, I take that back. It was the first night when I was in my tent and I said, I should have brought a trekking pole. Like, it was like, that was a huge mistake. Like,
Uh-huh.
like I'm halfway in or a little bit over halfway into this 2-day hike. And I'm like, yeah, I messed up. I should have brought the poles. But I got really lucky the second day, probably within the first half a mile of our start on the second day. I found a beautiful natural wooden stick that was like the perfect walking stick. And I used it. And it can't, like, I don't know what I would have done without that thing because it was crucial to me getting through the rest of that hike, because by the second day, my knees were shot. Just my knees were just toast after 2 days of walking on wet rocks. Yeah. And again, you're walking in water the whole time. So water's at your ankles most of the time, up to your knees a lot of the time. And even you have to swim in some spots, but it can get up to your neck. So having something to plant you and keep you situated, it's definitely something that I would highly recommend. And if I did the Narrows again, I would definitely go with either trekking poles or a sturdy, thicker stick for sure. Okay. Because like I said, injuring yourself is like the worst thing. Like injuring yourself and then not having enough water, right? Like those are the two dangers while you're out there.
So you kind of set us up to what kind of hike that it was. Would you have done anything differently to prepare for this trip besides the hiking poles?
I don't think so. I think obviously the trekking poles would have been a must-have. Now, I will say this. My buddy that I went with, he did not use walking sticks the whole time. Okay. He was fine. Obviously we were tired and, because it beats you up for 2 days. But he made it through fine, but I would recommend, and I would do again, the trekking poles or a walking stick for sure. Just even if you don't necessarily need it because you're like, oh, I'm tough, I'm young. It's not about that. It's about slipping. Yes. And when you slip, it doesn't matter how coordinated you are. It does, like, you know what I mean? And one of the things that I didn't realize in my euphoric brain of like, I can't believe we're doing the Narrow, like my brain was like in hyperdrive of excitement. Yeah. I didn't stop and go, wait a minute, what is the terrain going to be like? Like I made all the classic mistakes of not really preparing and I just got overexcited. So we brought enough water. We brought everything that we needed. We brought layers. Like we really did kind of prepare as much as we could have. Yeah. But the terrain was something I was not prepared for. When you first, and not at the beginning of the hike, and I'll talk about that a little later, but when you finally make it to where the gorge actually starts and the canyon kind of starts building. Yeah. Because you start at Chamberlain's Ranch. Like you start out of the park, not even you start at some ranch with cattle walking around you, right? Like it's
like Rango.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's very strange. You're like, wait a minute, where do we go? Because they drive you like an hour and a half out of there. So when you first start getting into the water and you start realizing, oh no, it's going to be 2 days of walking on wet, slippery rocks. Yeah. I don't have anything to keep my balance. Like, oh, this is going to be this is going to be a challenge.
Yeah. I guess the one positive thing you can say is that once you start hiking is that you've got nothing but time to think about your every step. You know what I'm saying? Right. It's not like you're too distracted by that's one of the cool things about hiking is just how focused on being in the moment that you are. So you're not distracted. You can think about your every step.
Yeah, and the cool thing about it is because it's only 16 miles, which isn't it's not a long way. But again, when you're fighting for every step, it makes it longer, right? Mm-hmm. But because you have 2 days to do 16 miles, even in bad terrain, you have plenty of daylight because you're starting early. You're going to get to your campsite well before dark. So I'm not in a rush to get somewhere. Like, you know what I mean? So when you say you have nothing but time to think, that's true. But you also know I'm not in a hurry. Mm-hmm. Like I can be as slow as I want. Well, one, you're like in the slide canyon. So like you're looking at everything. So you're not like blazing through it anyway. Like every step you take, you're kind of looking around going, this is crazy. This is so beautiful and amazing. But you do have the time to make it slow and get there slowly and not have to stress, I got to find my campsite before dark.
Yeah.
Because the slide canyon, like I said, it may be 40 feet in some across, and I think it expands up to like 100, but like a lot of times let's just say it's 60 feet across. So you only have a certain amount of time where the sun actually makes it directly into the slide canyon, because the slide canyon, you only have that much room for the sun overhead.
Yeah.
And then it's shade. So you're walking in the shade most of the time, right?
Right.
So it feels darker than it actually is, but you still have plenty of time. And even the second day is you have even more time, because the first day you knock out pretty much 10 of the 16 miles the first day, depending on where your campsite is. Right. I think we had campsite number 6 or 7.
Okay.
So we were a little bit closer, or we were halfway or a little closer to the end than, say, somebody who had campsite 1.
Yeah.
They had a shorter first day and a longer second day, right?
Yeah. Did you see any wildlife along the way?
No, 0.
Okay.
Because
0.
you're in spots where you can almost touch wall to wall.
Right.
Like it's not, there's nowhere, and there's no grass, there's no ground. It's just a river. So there's nowhere for wildlife to be. Now, the first 3 miles, there's wildlife everywhere, because you're not in the canyon yet. You're just walking through this ranch, right? You're just following the stream. And then once you get into the gorge, there's no wildlife until you see humans the next day.
Would you say the Narrows was your favorite part of visiting Zion, or are there other spots that you're just like, hey, if you're going to go there, you got to go here too?
No, I mean, definitely the Narrow. Like, again, the 2-day, if we just did the top up where you're just kind of do the day hike, I'm sure that, there's because Zion has so many different, it's a huge park. I mean, there's so many different areas. And so like the first day, so I'll kind of back up to when we got in. So we got a camp spot fairly early. I think we ended up getting a campsite somewhere around like 8:30 in the morning. Okay. So we sat for probably 3.5 hours in line. And again, there wasn't that many cars in front of us. So not that many people left the night before, right? So, and it's one in, one out. So you're just sitting there waiting for people. And every car that comes out, you're like, oh, please be leaving for good, Like you're just like hoping every single car that leaves is like leaving their campsite, so you can get so you can get kind of one step closer to getting their site. So once you get up there, the ranger gives you your map and your permit or your site number and how to get there. You're just like, okay, because we had already secured the Narrows, so like that part was already cool. Now we just need to get a camp spot, because the Narrows is for the next day, because you never get a permit same day for. You can't get it for the same day. It has to be for the next day, right? So again, we went into it with 0 plans. We didn't even plan on doing the Narrows, but we got lucky. So we get to our campsite. The first thing that we did was we built our tents, built kind of like our little spot, and how, just kind of our flags there, right?
Yeah.
And then the next thing that we did, I think we poured a cup of coffee, sat on a bench or maybe on the hood of my Jeep, opened up the map and said, what are we going to do today? Right?
That's like my favorite moment.
Yeah.
Where you're like deciding.
It was so cool.
Your cup of Joe. It's just like you're just like, you have so many options to choose from. You're like, what? It's like a win-win-win-win-win situation.
It's a win-win. Yeah. And again, I'm thinking I don't even care what we do today, because we're going to the Narrows tomorrow. Right. Like, so it's like, we can't lose. Obviously, we talked about Angel's Landing and some other places, but we settled on some Zion Wilderness because there were a lot of people there. Like, it was Disney World. It was people everywhere. And I think one of the things that motivated us was, how can we get away from all these people, but still enjoy Zion?
Right.
And so we took the Jeep and we drove up, and honestly, I don't even remember where we went, but it was part of the Zion Wilderness that you could day hike without a permit, or at least you could then. If you were going to backpack and camp, then you would need a permit, right?
Yeah.
But just to like day hike or be out there for a few hours, you didn't need a permit. So we found a spot, nobody out there. We get out, we just start hiking through some Zion wilderness. I think it was like on the other side of the park. So we probably drove 30 minutes and we kind of exited and entered the park a couple different times on whatever road we were on.
Yeah.
And we found a spot, and then there was this pretty massive hill, I guess I would call it. It obviously wasn't a mountain, but we'd call it a hill. And my buddy was like, "Oh, we gotta climb that, or hike up it, not climb it with gear, but like hike up it." So I got to be careful using the word climb because people think, oh, you're climbing. Like, no, we hike it. Because there's like legit climbers, and I don't want to just disrespect those folks. So.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, because climbing is like that's another podcast.
That's another level.
Yeah, that's another level that, I can only admire and respect. Maybe my younger days I would have tried it, but anyway. So we hiked up this pretty strenuous hill, and we get to the very top, and we just we just hung out there for a while. I don't think we saw maybe 5 other people.
That's cool.
Maybe the whole time that we were out here. And so we were just kind of like talking about the Narrows and talking about what we were going to do the next day, kind of strategizing how we were going to do that and, who we're going to pay to take us up there.
Yeah.
Just all the things to make sure that we were ready to go for tomorrow, because we got to pack up our gear. We got to abandon our campsite. Where we're going to put the Jeep. So now there's all these things that we got to think about that we weren't planning. So that hike kind of gave us an opportunity to kind of, with a free head and clear brain, just to kind of strategize, hey, how are we going to do this tomorrow? What is this going to look like? Let's plan our day tomorrow. So that way we know we have a plan when we wake up. Here's what we're going to do. So that was really cool to have a day of just kind of just going out hiking, doing on your own, getting away from the folks. Now, we didn't get to do Angel's Landing, which definitely was a sacrifice. But, when it's that busy, there's a line to get up them. I mean, it's crazy, right? It's like Half Dome in Yosemite. You've seen the lines that go in, people are waiting literally on the middle of Half Dome, just sitting there waiting. And then people are trying to get, at some point it's like, you know what, Half Dome, you're cool, but I'm going to go do something else, right?
And the crazy thing is, there are so many places that they could hike and walk up and see very similar
exactly
vistas.
Right.
It's just and I'm not we can talk about this later, but I think social media plays a big part of that.
Oh, sure.
This is where I was at, this is the name, this is where you should go, and people
absolutely
just flock to it. But
absolutely
yeah.
So again, nothing wrong with people's good, right? So we talk about traveling and going to places. Well, yeah, I'm you're inspired that many people wants to be outside and wants to experience nature, but at the same time it's okay, wow, this is a lot of people. How can we get away from them, right? But I mean, listen, we're people there too. We're a part of the problem. We're part of the problem also, right? So we're, but we just try to find ways of getting around that. And like I said, these national parks are so big. At least Zion is so big. You can find places all over the place that we didn't even get close to that are going to be really awesome hikes. You're not going to really experience that many people, and you're going to have just an awesome, incredible day, right? You can spread out. Yeah, you don't have to sit there by the, what do they call it? The where they sell all the merchandise.
Oh.
What is that called? The travel information center, but the merchandise store. My brain is.
Oh man.
The gift shop. Maybe.
Why was that so hard for you?
You'll edit all that out. We're like, hey, gift shop. And we're like, oh yeah, you said it right away. No problem.
Yeah.
But no, you can hang around the gift shop if you want to, but it's just buses and people. It's all you see are buses and people, right? Everywhere.
Yeah, just branch out a little bit,
Yeah, you don't have to hang right there. You can go other places. So we did that hike. So we did a hike before our big hike, which was good. And then we came back and basically went to our tents pretty early because we knew we were going to have a pretty rough 2 days or fun 2 days. So we knew we had to get up early because you have to find your own, at least the time that we were there, we had to find our own transportation to take you up to the start. But they tell you hey, if you call they give you a card and hey, call this guy, Gary will take you up there if you throw him $60 or, whatever. Again, I don't know what it's like now, but this is just kind of the way it was. So we met this guy told us to meet us in the parking lot at like 6 a.m. or whatever the time was. But he was a cool local guy that you could just tell he'd been there a long time. He'd kind of seen it all in that area, you know. He'd seen 100 different punks like us, you know, doing the narrows. He didn't care.
Dropping people off every day. You're not impressed. He's not impressed.
He was not impressed by anything that we had to say. He was like, "Oh, you're hiking the narrows. Good job. Whoa, yeah. Way to go.
Right.
Yeah. Can't wait to see your Instagram later, you know." No,
Gary was not impressed.
Gary was not impressed. You know,
he's just living his best life, dropping people off.
All he want, Listen, I just remember it was a white van. It was a white old van, and there was a couple. I mean, listen, it's an hour and a half drive, so like there was a couple spots where we're like kind of teetering on the cliff there, and I'm like, man, Gary, like, was this van gonna hold up? Are we good? Like, are we gonna make it here? Like, I mean, you know, it wasn't a brand new van. But listen, it made it. It's all good. He got us there safely. He was great. I was happy to pay him as much cash as he wanted from us to take that trip up there.
Yeah.
And then, so we didn't really know, like, this is new to us. So we're kind of looking for a little direction. Again, we're in the middle of a ranch. Like, I'm thinking, oh, we're hiking the Narrows. Where's the canyon?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I just thought, oh, well, there's the canyon. No, there is no canyon. So you're like, you're twisted. You don't know where to go. So he's like, okay, you're going to walk down to that till you hit water. And then when you hit water, take a right and then just follow it until tomorrow. And so we're like, okay, all right. Thanks, man. You know?
Oh, man, I love that though. Oh, it's such an adventure.
That was cool.
It's such a good story. It's just something you can retell, relive it. Feel good about telling it. What did you I'm sure you and your buddy discussed it after you left Zion. What did you two take away from it? Like, what were you feeling when you left?
Well, I was feeling pain in my knees for at least that night. And he actually flew out that next day. So we didn't really get a whole lot of time to talk about it that day. We talked about it a little bit from the drive from Zion back into Vegas. Somebody that we both know that lived in Vegas was gracious enough to give us a hot tub for a few hours, which was everything.
I think she's my sister.
Yeah. Your sister was kind enough to lend us her hot tub for a couple of hours after that, and like,
that's amazing.
I remember that hot tub being like one of the best hot tubs I've ever soaked in, and it was everything that my knees needed. I honestly, we listened to music on the way, but I think we were just kind of in our own little headspace on the way back home. Obviously, and really, to be fair, there's not a lot of words to describe the emotion that you feel of hiking through that. You're just kind of like, wow, like it has a sense of an accomplishment, even though it's not like some great feat. You know, it's not like, hiking Everest or something like that, but it still feels something that you put your body and mind, like it still kind of feels like you challenged yourself a little bit.
Yeah, I love moments like that as well, because even though you're only gone and really in it for those 2 days, I mean, plus your third day that you were there. So even though you were only in Zion for 3 days, it's like when you come out, I don't know, there's something about like, oh, this hot tub is the best hot tub I've ever felt. Oh, this food is the best food I've ever eaten.
It didn't feel like 3 days. It felt like a week. Yeah, you're right. It was crazy. Well, and then I had to drive back from Vegas back home here in Atlanta because I had something for work that was coming up. So I didn't even really get to enjoy resting or just hanging out. Like, I had to immediately jump back on the road and make sure that I got back across the country after that. And but 3 days, it seems like a short amount of time, but when you're there and you're doing all that, you get out of it and you're like, it felt like a lot longer. You know what I mean? Just because of everything that you did. And it was something that you didn't know that you were going to experience the beauty and the challenge that you did when you went in. Like, we knew going there at 4:30 or 5 a.m. was for something, but we didn't know what that something was. We knew like something was in front of us, but we had no idea, which is part of the reason why, I like to plan, but not over plan when I do trips like this, because part of that not planning actually ends up being some of the best things that happen, right? I mean, planning's great. I do not want anybody not to plan, but I think over planning could be to someone's detriment when they do stuff like this. Like don't have like an hour by hour countdown of what you're doing.
Oh, for sure. And so if somebody is super interested in doing this and exploring Zion or the Narrows, or, just hiking around, do you have any packing advice for somebody that's thinking about doing this?
Yeah. So obviously anywhere out west, water's just always just kind of number one in your brain, right? Like there's something about being out west that hydrating is definitely something that you think about. Even if you're just going to like Las Vegas or Southern California, or, even somewhere out in the wilderness, you definitely want water, right? But even where places where, you're not even like out in the wilderness, like you still got to be conscious about hydrating and drinking water. So I think if you're going to do Zion, obviously water is number one, because even though there's natural water there, and obviously you're spending 2 full days in a pretty good flowing river. I think it's the Virgin River. There's bacteria in that river that cannot be filtered out. So even with water filters, you can't drink it, right? You can't filter out the bacteria that's in this water. So you have to bring all of your water with you. And so for the Narrows, I think we did 2 gallons a piece.
Okay. Ooh, that's a heavy bag.
Yeah. The water was definitely, the good news is that by the second day it gets lighter, right?
It's a lot lighter.
But when you first start, obviously, yeah. So water, I think, is number one. You can't even show up without water. Like you won't make it, right? So I think water is key. If you're going to do the 2-day Narrows, I recommend just 2 gallons. Even though it's going to be heavy, you're going to need it. Like I'd rather have a little bit more water than I need than not have enough and run out. And I'll tell you, we did see one other guy that we came across before we hit the day hikers at the end of the second day. Because at the end of the second day, you eventually start hitting the day hikers. And then like, you're like, oh, this is where everybody hikes up to. Like now I'm seeing people, right? But we did see one dude on the day before, and he was running low. And I don't know if he thought he could filter it. I don't know. And I remember he and I, we talked, hey man, how's it going? And he's like, oh man, I think my memory, like he mentioned, I might be running a little low on water. And we were like, I don't remember what our reaction was, but I remember we like kept walking, and then we kind of both were like, wait a minute, he might need water. So like we stopped and turned around and like, hey man, like, do you need water? Like, do you have enough? We can give you some. We have 4 gallons, right? Like we have enough to spare some. We still have another day tomorrow, but I think we can give you, like, if you're like in need of water, dude, like we have enough to give you, right? So I can't remember. I think he said like, no, I'll be fine. Cause I don't remember giving him any water, but I remember us stopping and talking to the guy, like, we think he needs water, right? Like, I remember being a weird thing that happened. Cause one, it's weird that you see another human, right? Cause you're like, where is this? Like, and he's alone. And he's just kind of making its way down just like we are. But so there was a couple of weird moments right there.
The response, I think I'll be all right. When the question is water, I don't like that. Like, right, nah, I know. Don't think, you know what I'm saying? Just take it, take half a liter, take something. I mean, just anything. That was risky.
Yeah. It was it definitely was weird. So water for sure, bring a lot of it. Don't worry about how much it weighs. Just bring a lot of it because you're going to need it. The other thing, if you're hiking the Narrows, you have to wear the right foot gear, socks, neoprene socks, closed-toed, lightweight, like a Merrill mesh boot. Don't wear like a heavy hiking boot because you're 2 days walking in ice cold glacier water, and your feet are going to stay literally wet for 2 days. So you got to worry about like blisters. You got to worry about, your feet staying wet. So, and you're walking on rocks. You need something that grips well, that's lightweight, closed-toed. You want to bring extra socks with you so that way you can change those out after the first night. So foot gear is big. Like foot gear is like really big. Trekking pole. We talked about trekking poles. Don't skimp. Not on the Wait, especially in the narrows, because it's not like you're walking on gravel. There literally is no ground. Like there's no dry nothing for 2 days. You're walking in water for 2 days.
Yeah, don't think you can bring the beach shoe, has like no padding in it. But you're like, I'm walking in the water. No, right. No.
Yeah.
It will jack your foot up.
It will jack your foot up. Yeah. So definitely prepare on what you're going to put on your feet for that hike. Even if you do the day hike, you still have to be prepared on hiking because it's the same terrain. It's still in water. Yeah. It's still wet, mossy rocks that aren't secure, by the way. Like they move, right? So there's a lot of things that can get you in a lot of trouble from the knee down.
Yeah.
So pay a lot of attention to the knee down when you're going out there. Obviously, if you're going to do the 2 day, you're going to want a nice sleeping bag, a sleeping pad, tent. All of that as lightweight as you can possibly get. But if you're doing the narrows, you probably already have that stuff anyway. Another good thing is to have a waterproof pack. So what we did is we had they're like the size of like a small backpack, and they're waterproof packs. So we could stick things like our phone, camera, wallet, the extra pair of socks that you don't want getting wet. So like anything that you literally cannot get wet, you want to put inside the waterproof packs. And then you put those waterproof packs inside your bag. Right. So those waterproof bags definitely came in handy because, like I said, there are areas in the narrows that you have to swim or the water comes up and it'll completely submerge you and your gear. So everything about you is getting wet at least once or twice or 5 times, depending on how high the water is that day. So you're going to get wet. Like you're not going to get there and go, oh, well, just my feet will get wet. No. You're going to swim. Everything that you have on you is going to get soaking wet a couple of times. So having that waterproof pack is definitely crucial to bring with you. And then, obviously, the typical snacks, coffee, if you want to bring it, camera, tripod, a remote. I would, if you're into photography, I would probably recommend bringing like a remote shutter for your exposure. So because at the narrows, there's a lot of running water, right? And pretty much everything in front of you has running water. And if you really want those cool, like running water shots, you know what I mean? Where, you got something set up on a tripod and you can have that. I mean, obviously there are other people that are more in tune to photography than I am. I'm a complete beginner novice when it comes to photography, but I do know that a little bit about a little bit. So that's obviously not a need, but it is very cool to get some really awesome running water shots if you want to do that. So, and then, trekking pole that I talked about. Yeah, we already talked about the trekking pole. So that's pretty much it as far as like packing in. Yeah. You don't want to, like I said, you don't want to take a lot. Like you want to try to limit to the basic need while you're inside a canyon. Obviously, I think I left out like a small little first aid kit, blister gear, band-aids, like if anything where you were to cut yourself. So like obviously you want to bring first aid, but I feel like first aid just kind of, that's a standard on everywhere you go. You're going to have to have that. So I think that is definitely what you need. And then before you get out there, when you get your permits, they will give you your poop bag to take with you. Which was really, it was basically like a NASA bag with cat litter in it, is what I would describe it like. It would be like what I would imagine the people at the International Space Station poop in. That's what it looked like. So here's the funny thing about that poop bag is because there's nowhere to poop. Because like I said, you're in a slide canyon. So like there's nowhere for you to go to the bathroom. So
Yeah.
When you do go, you got to go in the bag and then take it with you, because you can't just, if you pooped everywhere, it'd be like
Yeah.
Everest, right? I think there's like 12,000
Yeah.
pounds of human poop on Everest. 12,
And humans, but yeah.
Well, there's some humans there too, which is sadder, but there's a lot of poop just like hanging out on Everest. And so Zion, I'm sure, is like, we don't want to have just like, because there's already cow poop everywhere because of the ranch. And there's, like, remember I said there's cattle. Well, there's, cow patties everywhere. So the next morning, so when we camped in our spot in the canyon, I didn't like have to go. Like, if it was an emergency, I could have hiked out and waited. But I kind of wanted to I wanted to see how difficult this was going to be, because let me tell you, nothing looked easy about this process. It wasn't flattering. It didn't look easy. Like, it was you in a foil, like I said, it looked like a foil looking bag with cat litter. And I was like, I got to do it. So I did. It was the weirdest poop I've ever taken in my life. But I made it all in the bag clean, because that's the other thing you worry about. Like, if you miss, then what do you got to do? Right? Like, that's a whole nother set of problems that you're not prepared for, right? You get to like put it on your face as like war paint or something. I don't know. But I didn't miss. I didn't miss. Luckily, everything was good. And then my buddy, he wasn't going to go. And then when I went, I was like, man, that was like, I'm talking about it. And he's like, okay, now I got to go. Because I guess talking about it like made him go. So then he went. So then we both had our poop bags. So we got to, put it in our gear. And we're, hiking out with our poop bags, that was kind of cool. So all the gear that you bring, and then plus they'll give you your poop bag to take with you to poop in and to bring out, which is nice. It's nice of them to do that. Thank you, Zion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, that's how sophisticated they are.
I like it. They really are just
they think of everything.
To preserve it.
Yeah, they're
really
true
do.
Preservation. They think of everything. They're there for your needs, is what Zion is. I applaud them. Yeah.
I love them. Everything about it sounds awesome. Like, whoever's listening, if you have been, you've probably just relived it, brought back some things you wanted to think about, or maybe things you wanted to forget, and you're like, I don't miss that at all, But I'm sure that was for some fun for some people to reminisce. And then if you have not gone and you're thinking, you gave some really good advice, some things to think about, some things to pack. And, I do want to point out what you said earlier. You don't have to be in top physical shape, but you do have to just know that the 16 miles, it's not just walking like 16 miles on asphalt.
Right. It's not walking the belt line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like the belt line in Atlanta, Georgia.
It's not the belt line.
Which, by the way, there is no rules on the belt line. I just want to point that out.
Listen, I love the belt line. I'm a huge fan of the belt line. But it's a different walk. It's a different walk. And, so real quick, lastly, I think to add on to that is, I think layers is a good thing to bring in your thinking. I'm going to be, because really, I think hiking the Narrows starts in June. They allow you to start in June. I don't even think it's open in April and May, because one of the things that is worrisome that could be dangerous to your life is floods. So you're in a canyon. So flash flooding, even if it's not raining on you, it could be raining a mile or two away. And so flooding is definitely a major concern with hiking the Narrows or any slot canyon. I've done some other slot canyons and some smaller slot canyons in Arizona. And, the one thing that you have to do is not only watch what's the weather like where I'm at, but what does the radar look like in like a 5 to 10 mile radius of where I'm at? Are there any storms?
Yeah.
But the other thing is that, so Zion in the summertime, so like June to like October, maybe end of October is like the prime time Narrows time when you want to do this. Like I said, we went in either late June or late July. I can't recall now what month it was, but I've heard that going a little bit later, like maybe August or September is a better time to go. It's a little less crowded. Okay. Obviously, you're not going to have to worry about that in the Narrows because there's not going to be anybody in there anyway. But the other areas of this park will be a little less crowded. And it won't be as hot, which is nice. And I think the leaves start to change. So it's just kind of a good time to go. If you can try to make like a August, September, maybe even early October would be a good time to go out there. But even in the dead of summer where it's 110 degrees outside, you're in a slide canyon. This, like I said, the sun only hits you for maybe 2 hours and then you're in the shade. And then at night, when the sun goes down, the temperature completely changes. And not to mention, you're hiking in ice cold glacier water, right? So I think it's like 55 degrees. So it's not, I mean, it's really cold water. I mean, it will it will make you suck in when it gets above your neck, right? So definitely layers for like night, like a light jacket or like maybe not like a jacket, but like just like a small little pullover, just something to wear if you get cold at night or even cold in the shade inside the slide canyon, because the temperatures are going to be just completely changing from 1 hour to the next, right? So you're going to be hot 1 hour, you're going to be kind of chilly the next hour, then you'll be cold that night. Yeah. I would say that be prepared for the temperature to swing pretty wildly. And then if you definitely go in like September, October, it's definitely way cooler then. So you're obviously going to want to dress for those lower temperatures, even in the directly under the sun.
For sure. Yeah. Layers is just always good advice.
Always.
Anytime you hike, I mean, even places you think it's just going to be hot the entire time. Guess what? Even if it's scorching and it gets to a point where it's too hot, if you have extra layers, you can put it over your head, over your neck, over places. I mean, it really does reflect the sun. Like I always, if I'm going somewhere hot, I will bring long sleeves, something white, something light that reflects it, because you just never know when layers are going to come in handy whenever you're outside. So that's just a good advice across the board.
For sure, especially out west or anywhere where there's no humidity. Obviously, wearing long sleeves or layers when it's humid it's gonna feel like an oven. But if there's no humidity, like all you're doing is blocking out the sun. I mean, definitely wearing longs. Like I said, I was in another time. I was in Arizona in early July, and the locals there were all wearing long sleeve turtlenecks, and they were doing everything that they could to protect their skin from the sun. And I was like, and that's when I kind of dawned on me, like, oh. Like, that's a neat trick. And it's not that hot when you're wearing long sleeves because there's no humidity, right? And I grew up in Austin and Houston, Texas. So humidity in the dead of the summer, long sleeves is the last thing you ever want to put on, when it's really, really humid. But I get to some of these other areas and it exposed me to a different world of, oh, okay. So this is how they do it. Okay, got it.
Oh, yeah. And I remember when I was younger, just starting out hiking, and I would see the big brimmed hats, that we wear whenever we're hiking. And there's a lot of different names for them. Some people call them bucket. Yeah, it just depends. Yeah, depends on where you're from, what you call them. But I was like, oh, why are these wearing such big hats, right? And this was me in my early 20s. And then I get out. I remember the first time going to the Grand Canyon. I'm like, give me a big hat. I need for nothing to touch my face. I don't want the sun to even remotely just barely brisk my face or my neck. It was just so great at keeping you cool, just keeping the temperature of your body down. I was like, oh, I can never hike without a hat again.
You learn this is what I love about making mistakes, which I do all the time, is that you learn like, oh, this is how you do that, right? Like you can't teach me the right way. I have to really like make a mistake and then go, oh yeah. That's how you stay warm. Oh, that's how you protect myself. Oh, okay, got it, right? So so watching other people or being out in something where you're like, why didn't I do this? So, but then every other time moving forward, you will always do that thing because you're going to remember the time that you were in need, right?
Yes. You're like, why? Like trekking poles on your next hike. You'll be like, okay, is this something I'm going to need? Do I need to bring these just in case?
Well, and that's the weird thing. Like of all I don't even know how many hikes I've ever done, but of all the hikes I've ever done, I've never once thought about a walking stick or a trekking pole. And then this was the one hike where I was like, when I found one, it was like the greatest thing it was like when Tom Hanks discovered fire on Castaway. I was just like, yeah, like it was such an amazing moment that I had something to keep me upright, right? I mean, but it was, I've never needed or thought about it ever before, after. But for that one particular hike, it's like I needed something to help me walk.
Yes. Oh man, this is great. I love it. I love talking about this stuff. I love like revisiting all these places and hikes in my mind. Like it's just it's a blast. And that's one of the reasons I love doing this podcast, is so I can kind of relive these moments and, you know, relive them through your stories as well. And so another thing I like about doing these podcasts is learning something from the other person. And you and I, we have this in common, is that we're kind of constantly on this search for knowledge, right? And that's one of the appeals of travel for us. Like there's always something new around, you know, every turn. There's always a new story to be had. But one point I want to make is that sometimes we do need a little bit more than a life-altering physical adventure. As much as much as fun as it is to talk about, sometimes people like you and I, we need a good debate.
All right, guys, this is a modified outro. Jason and I continued to talk for another 2 hours. So I figured I wouldn't be too popular for a 3-hour podcast. And so I cut it off here. We're going to continue with this next Sunday after I get finished editing the rest of this. But we continue to talk about travel, certain aspects of it. We debate a little bit. We agree on some things. We disagree on some things. So yeah, pick up. Come join us back here next week so we can continue the talk. See you guys then.